begin as always by noting for the record that we have a quorum. We are missing 2 people, and that'll be noted. Also, we always begin with the approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Members of the commission, you had an opportunity to review those. What's your pleasure?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
A second.
All right, any discussion? Members in the audience? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. Motion is approved. Moving on, we have no old business, so we'll just move right into our new business. The first request is that of 235 Coral, Susan Kreutzmann? Kreutzmann. I flipped a coin, I guess wrong.
Hi Becky, I haven't seen you in so long. You are just fine. This old mayor here. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay.
You have the floor. You can tell us as much or as little. We've had an opportunity to review your plan, so we have a good idea of what you're proposing.
Well, that's good. Well, I already met with David about 2 weeks ago, excuse my throat, and I'm expecting my landscape architect who promised she'd be here on time, but she was across town, so I think I can do it without too much trouble. At least I hope. I would like to, I proposed or provided you information about the first stage of a project that I am planning, and it's going to be in phases, which is an opportunity to allow me to remain living in Glendale until for a long time, and to keep my dogs. So, but currently my home sits kind of like up on a hill, and garage is below grade and all of these things. So we're starting this project so that I can bring a driveway around to the back and put on a small addition. But today, we're only looking at the beginning, which is to put up a retaining wall and then a new fence to cover the west side of my property and then the south side. I have notified all my neighbors, which are there are 8 of them. That's not her. I've notified all the neighbors. And at least a week ago, I've heard from a couple who were just telling me everything's good, not to worry. I don't see anybody here to complain, but that's what you're looking at today. And so you will also be seeing even more information than what I'm here to get permission or a permit to do today. But this is phase number 1.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, questions?
I see nothing on here that would not be acceptable.
I think
the
you know
wall
where
looks
this is.
great.
Don't you know where this is?
The fence looks great,
Yeah.
yeah.
And property drops off from the Willow people.
Yeah.
The Willow people and the property tribe kind of
Right.
drops off the elevation.
Yeah,
And water is not, we get our share of water, but it usually runs down the street because my home is up. And all of that is Gail, the architect, looked at it, and everything's being provided for.
yeah, I saw the dry creek and everything,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it looks good to me.
So,
Did she give you any kind of idea how long the phase would take?
well, initially, there were no phases, it was just gonna be all at one time.
Okay.
But some personal things have come up
Sure.
that have prevented me from moving on and getting it done this summer.
Right.
So my hope is within the next year, all of it will be done. But
Okay.
I wanted this part now because last year I had cleared a lot of the shrubbery and trees out from that line the entire west side of my property. And it looks, as the architect said, she said it looks a little like a war zone. Because there's, so I don't care, but my neighbor, it doesn't look pretty. So I thought, let's get this phase done and then move forward as time goes on.
Okay.
Did you see the picture of the fence? I've got more pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of our application. Your application.
Here she
right?
is now. I think
Yeah,
I
we've
might
seen the
not have
retaining
muted
wall
you,
of the
but
fence.
this is the architect, Gail Fraser. These are her beautiful drawings. So if you have any questions, I think they're gonna.
Yeah.
Don't- She no longer could.
Now it's official.
She,
The
I
jacket.
can't show with you guys in a t-shirt, so I'm not.
It's okay.
yes, you can. Any questions for her?
The wood fence that you have here, the privacy fence, does that look the same on both sides?
Yes, they call it, since I've done a privacy fence over the years, this is a new style, and they call it neighbor friendly because it's finished the same on both sides.
That's good.
And currently, as I said, I have like 8 neighbors on the Willow, the homes on Willow, which all sit way towards the street. So they have very deep backyards. So you can't even, you see their homes, but we're really, how should I put it? They are
They're setback.
located, they're set
The rear-
back so
the
far that,
Rear yard setback is
Yeah.
quite a bit away.
yeah, exactly.
Probably 8 feet almost.
Right. But right now, there are crazy configurations of different fences, like wire fences and broken down stockade fences, none of which were mine. They belong to the Willow houses. And as I said, I've notified all of them and they haven't heard anything. And in fact, one neighbor has kind of asked me to kind of add more to it, so. But
What is the finish of that fence?
it's
Will that be stained?
cedar, and then
or
I'm gonna stain it
cedar?
on my side.
Okay.
Yeah, eventually,
Sure.
so.
So you say it'll be painted on the outside and stained on your side, is that what you said?
No,
No,
it will
she
be
said-
unfinished on the neighbor side, then they can do what they want with it.
Well,
It'll weather to
It'll-
a gray. It'll
yeah.
weather to a nice gray.
don't we have a thing in there saying it has to be stained?
No.
Painted? I thought we did.
In fact, Eads is gonna do the staining on my side. Now, if you're saying you need some sort of barrier, then
I thought
I
that
will
it
take
had
care of
to
it.
be, I thought we had something in the rules where it had to be either painted or stained.
On both sides?
Yeah, I thought I remembered that.
You know, in some ways, never
He's
mind.
like,
I don't, no,
No?
there's no requirement that it be
Okay.
painted or stained.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address this application? Members of the commission, further discussion, or is there a motion?
Move to accept the application as submitted.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to our next request. That's the request of Rachel Porter at 313 East Willow for windows and gutters.
I don't think you're on my Willow list.
That's the other Willow.
Yes, yeah, I got you. Hello.
Good evening.
I am new to Glendale.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. And all this is new to me as well.
You're Rachel Porter.
I'm Rachel
Okay.
Porter. And moved to 313 East Willow. I actually just closed, so I'll be moving in the next few weeks
Oh.
into the Quinn Chapel. And so noticed upon purchasing there were no gutters on the chapel, and notice how wet the basement is getting because of no gutters, and because currently the windows are plywood. The basement windows are plywood and the basement is above ground. And they're just kind of shut from the inside, which poses a safety risk and a water risk for preserving this historic chapel for myself and my daughter. And so my application is for windows and gutters.
I've seen it all.
Well, thank you. We've all had a chance to see your application. Dave was kind enough to share it by way of Dropbox, so we've all seen it. Members of the commission, questions, comments, discussion?
I went by before coming here to make sure that that it could take that type of gutter, because from the picture it looked like a Yankee gutter on an angle, but it's not. It's a straight. It can take that type of gutter. But I also noticed that it has quite a wave to it. Have you noticed? And
The roof
hopefully-
line does?
No, the gutter line goes like this and then
That's what I
out
meant,
and
yeah.
in and all that stuff. So hopefully he's gonna do something with that. I don't know how, but he has to make that work so that you don't end up with a gap behind that where water's running down behind the gutter.
Right.
So you may want to
Okay.
talk to him about that.
Okay.
Do you know if that ties into a storm drain or goes to?
I noticed on the front
Street.
corner where the driveway is,
Yes.
that there is a hole where there looks like where gutters were.
Downspout used to be.
Downspout used to be. That's the only thing I've noticed personally. I don't really even know what I'm looking
Right,
for.
sure.
So when I found the historic pictures of the church with gutters on it, I was like, well, it has to have gutters. Like, you can't have this without gutters. So I'm not sure.
I wouldn't attach to that unless you take a hose or something and run it down
Oh,
there
to make
first
sure.
to make sure it's free. Because you'll just have a problem and you'll end up with a terrible problem. If the drain tile is cracked and you attach to that, it's gonna send all that water into the foundation
Right,
and
into
make
the
it even
foundation.
worse.
The other question, do we have it where stormwater can't go into the sewage treatment plant drain
Correct.
now? And
Correct.
sometimes old storm drains like that right there, and they don't allow that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a combination drain.
What the street people have done is drop dye down in there and see if it shows up, unfortunately.
Okay.
But you don't have to tie in either. You can just have
Right.
an elbow on it
Right,
and
just an elbow.
have it run out.
Exit somewhere to ground.
Yeah.
The back of your property, at the very back of your property, is there any kind of depressed low area in the dirt or in the grass that would look like a swale where water would go?
Not that I have seen,
Okay.
no.
Just curious, I didn't know where that water could have been running to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to take it as far from the foundation as you can, but you can't direct it onto your neighbor's property either.
Right, and the house that's right next to it, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have said all of that, like I've let the M&M Construction, Dominic, know that, and he has come out and seen it and everything too, that the house and the church used to be one property and that's why they're so close and all of that, so. I imagine running it off the back, because both houses are pretty close on either side.
Any questions or comments about the glass block, or Leslie?
Well, I have a question. The basement windows, I mean, there were windows, are they just covered up or they removed the basement windows?
There is one window that is cracked and squeezed together with two pieces of wood. And then there's one whole window and the rest are just wood to the outside.
Okay, thank you.
That one window is just a big piece of glass, or is there a line in the middle like a
No, it's just
sash?
one big piece
Of glass.
of glass.
Okay.
They must have taken the original windows out, because all of those from a long time ago.
Yeah.
All of those windows were stained glass, that kind of,
In the basement they were?
in the
wow.
in the basement, there were like the smoke kind of glass.
Wow.
So you couldn't look in, but all of those had windows.
Well, I wish they were there. Man, yeah. They're huge windows too.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like you can see the outside from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
which is, that's why I haven't moved in yet, because I'm like, I need windows for safety,
Yeah.
safety. Not that,
Mhm.
I'm concerned as far as crime per se, but I have a teenage daughter and I'm a single mom, so.
I'd be more concerned about the animals.
Well, for sure. I haven't seen anything but spiders, but for sure.
Where's Betsy? Normally, we don't allow, we haven't allowed glass blocks, windows to be put in, and, in the historic district, and, because they're not appropriate, they're not, period, for the design of the structures. And I noticed in your application, you mentioned you've seen some here and there, and what has happened is people just sneak them in without getting a permit. And they put them in, and then nobody notices for a while, and then all of a sudden it becomes they're there. So that's why you're seeing those here and there.
I see.
So normal windows would be more appropriate for that structure.
I personally cannot afford them, and there are 10 of them, and they're huge.
They're big.
The
My-
other thing is I did a little research on glass block, because I had talked to David and he had mentioned that they're not period, and the guy who came out and said they were actually started in the 1880s in Europe, glass block did. And I was like, that's when this chapel was built, 1881. So, not that that matters, but, and I just feel like also for, safety, they're so sturdy and, I don't know, so that's
Is
just
that
my
living
reasons.
space down there?
It's not.
So no egress? I don't know, I would not be in favor of glass block windows just because it's not appropriate.
Well, I have a different opinion of it. For one thing, there are many, many homes all over Glendale in the Historic District that have glass block. Another thing is you're not altering the structure, you're not changing the openings. So if somebody wanted to come in at a later date and put appropriate windows in, they could. It's not like you're changing the historic structure. So somebody at a later date could put in windows if they wanted to that would be appropriate, if whatever windows would be appropriate in that. There are enormous openings in there. And they are everywhere. Glass block is all through, not just in that area, it's all through the historic district.
People sneak them in.
So, in other words, if somebody follows the rules, they get denied. If somebody doesn't follow the rules, they get a glass block window.
That's right. And we haven't gone back.
I think
and
the Lyceum also has glass block.
We don't yet, but we're going to.
But that one was approved.
But that
because
was
it's under
approved
a
because
porch where you don't
it's
see it.
behind the barrier where the dumpster is, and nobody can see it from the outside. But I actually would be in favor of the glass block in this case, and in all cases actually, because I don't know what percentage of homes have them now that in the historic district, but it's a large percentage. And it is a safety issue. I know people that have been broken into through their basement windows. Here in the village, it's a very easy way to get into a home. You go around back, you smash one of those and you go in.
Bob, is it generally true that more traditional windows are more expensive than block windows that she's proposing?
Yeah, they are. And I agree with the date she's talking about. When I first tried to get glass block windows for the Lyceum years ago, I brought in information showing that they are really historic. I found stuff from the 1920s here in the U.S. I didn't find anything from the 1890s. But it's not like glass block is a new thing.
Right.
Are there some glass blocks that are more appropriate than what she's presented?
I would not do the vents on the front ones.
Can you share that with me? What?
Yeah. She has some, and that has a vent in it. I would not have the vent on the front ones, because I think that
Visible
really
to the
is a
street.
little unsightly.
When you say front, you mean toward the front
Towards
of
the,
the building?
towards the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He recommended that I have two vents in the back. There are 4 on each side and then 2 in the very back, to just have a vent in 2 windows.
At
For
least,
some kind of
I'd do that. Maybe
Okay.
even 1 on each side too, just to get some cross ventilation.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do it on the front.
Got it.
Are there different size blocks, Bob, that might be more appropriate, that would give a better appearance of just one glass window, for example?
No, well, they do have different size blocks, but it's dependent upon the opening. The blocks are sized
So you
to
got
the
a
opening.
much bigger opening, you use bigger blocks.
No.
I'm sorry.
Not like
They
some.
take the opening, they divide it by a certain amount, and they want the blocks to be consistent, so they try
gotta
to
make
make
it-
as consistent a block as they can in
He
there.
did show me 2 patterns of blocks, and the pattern, the example he gave was like a wavy,
Mhm.
so that it matched the style of the foundation, which has like a wavy
Yeah.
cover on the
Ceiling
cinder block,
yeah.
to make it kind of look consistent.
That's the standard block, and that's probably the one I would choose, because others have like a starburst pattern,
Yeah.
and they look sort of whitish and stuff.
Right.
And I think this one that's pictured is the correct one.
Is glass block addressed in our guidelines at all?
Not specifically.
I know I didn't see it in the ordinance specifically.
Let me check. I know the guidelines do mention it, that they are discouraged.
So I knew we had it somewhere.
Can you share that page with me?
This page?
Yeah, that's part of the application.
That's showing the gutter, I think, isn't it?
No, the
Oh,
gutters are
okay.
different.
Yeah, okay.
This
Got
was
it.
presented for the glass block.
Any luck?
What's that?
Did you find it?
I did. It just under foundation it says do not install glass block windows,
That's the
glass
guidelines,
blocks and
right?
window openings. What's that?
That's the guidelines?
Those are the guidelines.
What's the context? Is it just
Just
that
a
bold,
con-
that naked, huh?
Context of under foundations,
Okay.
the foundations section.
This feels more like more than just a foundation since it's so high above ground. Anyone else on the commission? Questions, comments, concerns?
I'm just gonna jump in here. I know I don't have a vote on this, but if we're going to make a change in how we deal with glass block, I'd like to have it done in a way that makes this an exception to a rule, rather than leave something out there that's just gonna say, you know, glass blocks are always okay. And I mean, I've heard some thoughts about why it might be appropriate to make an exception here, and I just wonder if that could be articulated.
What thoughts do you have on how it could be an exception?
The size of the openings, their location in, you know, in
The proportion of the building.
you know,
To where Tom was saying that this is higher. Sorry. Yeah.
the other Tom.
I don't want credit where credit is due.
No, that the elevation of these windows is higher and doesn't appear to be your standard basement foundation.
I mean, I'm just thinking the size of the windows might make them more prone to a break-in, and if you didn't have glass block in them, and so it enhances the security concern. I mean, normal basement windows are kind of small, and you know, even after you break the glass, you're belly crawling over the stuff, and that it's not all that good. But if you've got a larger window, it would be easier to break in.
But then, I'm sorry for interjecting, but then what has been the break-in record on those two streets? There hasn't been any break-ins. So not to discourage the security of the church or the home, but those two streets don't have break-ins.
Well, I know that down on Kingfisher, one got broken into through a normal size basement window around back. Somebody smashed it and went in, and it was pursued by the police and all that stuff. And I think it could happen anywhere.
It could, but I know my parents have lived there since 1961, and there hasn't been any break-ins on those two streets.
But it could happen tomorrow.
It could, and it could happen anywhere in Glendale.
Right.
So I agree with that.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the location of the house as a mitigating factor. I was thinking more of the size of the windows and that.
I'd say the location of the window opposed to the ground. I mean, you're right at foot height there.
Yeah, they're very low.
Right there.
Foundation.
Because if you're walking next to the church, they're probably like
So the foundation is
at
actually
hip
painted
level,
green.
or at least at my hip level.
Right.
I mean, if we approve one, we're gonna be setting precedent to, we won't have a leg to stand on to turn down glass block in any house in Glendale, I don't think.
I wouldn't go as far as say not a leg to stand on. I mean, it's if you articulate a reason that is not common to or not doesn't apply everywhere, then you can always say we made an exception here for a valid reason.
But to be honest, anybody that wants glass block can just call a glass block company and get a glass block window put in, and that's it.
Yeah.
They do
But
it all
that's
the
not a
time.
reason to that's not a reason to make the exception here.
Right.
Dave, what's the word that's used in there?
Do not.
do not use,
In the guidelines, correct, it says do not use.
it's that clear. It's
In
not
window
discouraged
openings.
like you thought it was. But then again, the guidelines themselves are just that, guidelines. They're not hard and fast rules. Yeah, I agree with what Don's saying. If we can articulate exceptions and reasons for this exception, I don't think it creates a precedent. I mean, every situation has to be evaluated on its own merits. And if we're clear about it here, it will send the message that it's not automatic for the next one.
I mean, I'd feel differently if there were no glass block windows in the
Oh, I would
village.
too.
You know, and yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm just putting something out there.
I would feel differently
Yeah.
if it had been enforced through the years and there were no glass block, but you drive down almost any street in the historic district, you're gonna see glass block windows.
So a question then for clarification of a variance. So the old UDF or the current UDF store is where the auto body shop was, and there was a variance on that site for signage. So therefore, we were able to have digital sign on that site. Is that a variance for our guidelines? And how would that, if at all, be similar to this situation?
I don't recall it being a variance in the strict sense. It was, my recollection on the sign was that that was allowed because the changeable copy was the continuation of the gas station's previous changeable copy. It was just different technology, but there was an accommodation made, not a variance in the strict sense, but it was allowed in that regard as an exception, if you will.
Like as in grandfathered or no?
In that same family, yeah. I think that's,
Okay.
Wally was the thought process behind that. Of course, he's not here, but that's my recollection. And Don, anybody else can correct me, but
I think that's right. It had been used by a gas station before it was a body shop,
Right.
and gas stations by their nature change their prices and they do it on signage.
Right.
And so it had been done over the years. And so this was a continuation of the prior use. And I guess it falls into a grandfathering category for me. But
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think there's an analogy for what we're talking about here.
Just curious.
Mhm.
yeah,
I think the closer analogy is probably the Lyceum, where we did allow the glass blocks in a situation where it was not visible for that particular location. It's different than here. It was 2 basement windows, of course. I think it was done for security reasons and just security from the weather as much as anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for that matter, you could just build better plywood hole covers. I mean, it'd be cheaper than the glass block probably. And then paint it like the foundation like it looks, and then you wouldn't even see it. Then in the future, if somebody wanted to put windows in, they could put their windows in. But I'm not telling you what to do, but if for security purposes, just better plywood.
Yeah.
In my opinion, would be better. 'cause then
These
you preserve
glass
it.
blocks, like I said, can be taken out and somebody could put a window in the future.
Yeah, people
It's
never
not
do
like
that.
a tremendous alteration to the structure that's forever changed.
People never take them out once they put them in.
Well, we have a number of options: approve, deny, or defer. We have,
If you want to split the vote on the, just because I anticipate I'm voting no on the blocks, but can we split the vote and vote yes, vote on the, make
Sure.
a motion to vote? I'll make a motion to vote on the gutters, approve those as submitted.
that's
I'll
fine.
second
We
it.
actually have 2 applications, so that's probably the best way to do it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
A motion and
I'll
second on
second
the
the
gutters to
gutters.
approve.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the gutters? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If you're good on the gutters, we're going to keep our discussion going on the block, and you've heard the options: approve, deny, or continue to next month. Is there a
Okay.
motion?
I move that due to the security issues of the exceptional size of the I guess you'd say foundation windows or lower level windows, basement windows, the size of the basement windows then I move that we allow them in this case to be glass block and with no vents on the front windows that are visible from the street.
Okay. Does that make sense to you? If this motion is approved, I would ask that the record reflect the previous discussion, that this is for this property only. It's not our intent to set a precedent.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. Is there or do we have a motion? Is there a second?
One second.
Motion second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
1, 2, 3 ayes, 2 noes. You got it.
Thank you.
David, does she need further permits from you, building permits? Or?
Yeah, we'll just process your applications and we'll give you a call when your permits are ready.
And then I come pick them
Mhm.
up at your building?
Yeah, just come pick them up at the village office and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you. Welcome to Glendale.
Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes item. Actually, there's one other item under new business, which is the request of the Glendale Urban Forestry Board, an application for arboretum signage in public parks. Mr. Hubbard.
As I said earlier, I'm surprised that this room still exists. I don't think anybody's used it for a long time.
That's in COVID. We have.
I gave each of you a copy of the presentation I'm going to give. I've worked it out. We worked it out in the Urban Forestry Board, and as you know, John is a voting member of the Urban Forestry Board also. And during the process of this, he thought it'd be very appropriate to bring it up to this meeting, what we're doing is associated with signage. I hate to use that word. We like to use labels or plaques or something like that. But so that's the reason we're here today, and we're looking for any ideas that you have, and really trying to find out if this is, if you see if any objections to anything we're talking about.
Yeah, just so you know, I mean, we've been trying to get a little more disciplined in how we regulate signage in the village. We're about to, well, we've got the sign ordinance that we are considering that you folks passed, and quite frankly, I think we might be sending it back to you for some further comment. But we've had some very specific questions and suggestions that we'd like to get input on at council. So, like I say, I think I felt just because we are regulating signs and looking at them historically and everything else, that we'd like to have the point of view of the commission on them.
Personally, I wouldn't even call them signs, I'd call them labels.
That's what we usually use, yeah.
And it's just 3 by 5 inch. That's,
Yeah.
I think they look fine.
Okay. But anyway, the objectives of the presentation, and we're going to give this also to the council tonight, is to approve the designs related to content and of the arboretum signage. So
I think it's great.
the council has already approved the size of the signs. The council has already approved we're going to do something about our arboretum. So, and in fact, there's been, because of earlier ordinance by the council, we have placed some orders for about $2,500 worth of signage, not what you see, but what holds it. Okay. And so tonight, we want to talk about specifically the words and what we show on what people will see in as far as the trees are concerned.
Yeah, we don't approve content. It's just the concept of the plaque is all that we.
Yeah, to me, what I'm looking for is approval of this.
Yeah.
The design, the look
Right.
and feel of that
Right.
3 by
Okay.
5 or whatever it is.
Label.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it looks
label.
fine.
I like
Yeah.
the idea.
Well,
We normally say label.
It says label right there.
I will tell you, Joe, I'm not happy with the stakes that it's gonna be attached to, though, like I told you when we were out there. For one thing, it only goes down into the ground a foot, maybe 14 inches, so you're gonna have heaving up and
You
down,
want to show those?
because
for
it's
the
not
rest?
deep enough. Another thing is it's gonna be tilting this way and that way and all over the place, because it's just one little narrow thing. It doesn't have any additional supports or anything to stabilize it. Unless you're gonna take a post hole digger and pour concrete and put it in the concrete, you're gonna end up with signs every which way, just tilted all over the place. I think if you're making this investment, you ought to go ahead and invest in better stakes or put them in concrete, one of those two options.
Okay,
Is that the stake?
duly noted. Yeah, why don't you show, here.
2 foot in the ground.
Yep, yeah, it'll be 2 foot out of the ground.
2 foot out of
The
the
ones that we're gonna be putting in are black. You can't see them, but here's the black. We didn't have any this size that were anodized. So they go into the ground and there's about 2 feet that comes out. So this is what people see. But your issue
Oh, what you
is
see
different
is
than that.
fine,
I
yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, it's just this thin little thing in the dirt. It's gonna be every which way. You're gonna have some tilted this way, some tilted that way. You're gonna have whatever.
Lawnmowers?
Huh?
Lawnmowers banging
Yeah,
into
people
them?
banging into them, and it just needs to be more stable. Now, it'd be very easy, post hole digger, 2 foot hole, put some concrete in there, that would take care of it. If that's what you want to do.
Duly noted.
But doing it that way is not gonna work.
Okay. We might do a trial one way or the other, you know, so
Sure.
I think your point's well
That's a
taken.
good point.
That's the type of thing we'd like
Yeah.
for you to tell us if you see it. Go to the next page, and what it shows is the sign, that's the actual size of the sign. And,
Are you on this one?
well, I'm on this one right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, okay, we're there.
The
We're
one that
with
has the sign at the
you.
top.
Yeah, we're with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that might be easier for, if you don't mind.
No, fine.
Let me stand up here.
Sure.
Where I can talk to you. But this is the actual size of the sign itself. And it has a couple things in it. One is a logo that says Glendale,
Urban
Urban.
forestry.
should say, Glendale Urban Forestry, yeah. Okay, so, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The number here is the tree number. So everything's set up to go, when you look at a tree, is set up to that tree number. So because over here is a QR code. Is everybody familiar with QR codes?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm sure that once we do this, we're gonna have to have an education process going on. It says, how do you set up for QR codes and things like that? But inside the QR codes, and I'll talk about those in a minute, you see things like, if you look at, this is what you would see on your phone, right here. And in that is a write-up about what that tree is, some interesting facts about the tree, and then some sources. Where do we get the information that we put against this particular tree, which is number 32 or whatever the number is, 33. I don't know if this is 33. But that's so you've got a tie-in. You have across the top an arboretum logo, which we just created. You have below that the common name of the tree. That's what 99% of the people that look at it are going to recognize, maybe in some fashion. But and below that's the scientific name, which nobody will recognize probably. Yeah, but it's required. We're developing this arboretum in concert with the Morton Arboretum, which is up near Chicago, and they have arboretums set around the world, matter of fact. And so that's what this, so we have to deal with some of the things that they ask for. They don't, yes.
This is a stupid point, but it's a point. Since they don't even teach cursive writing anymore, should that be in cursive? People might not even be able to read it, kids. Yes, sir.
I don't know.
This
That font is.
Well, it has to be italic.
in cursive?
Yeah.
That's cursive.
Looks like cursive to
That's
me.
cursive.
That's cursive.
That's correct.
Well,
But that's okay.
it's just supposed to be,
They get double educated.
It's Latin.
It's
It's
Latin.
Latin.
They can read Latin.
They can read cursive.
My wife says she's gonna have a new career
we'll take a note of
interpreting
that.
cursive later in the
We'll
future.
take a note of that.
Okay.
And,
It's Jim.
I know.
That's, yeah.
but that's the type of input we'd like to hear.
That's true.
So when you look at the sign, what that brings you down to is what you see on your phone, and you'll see, like, here's another tree. This is a sycamore, American sycamore. Has different wording, has different references. By the way, down at the bottom of this on your phone, you can blow up the pictures. These ones down at the bottom. We've also explored one where you could have a lot of pictures and just scroll down on your phone and get them all, okay? So there's a lot of opportunities here. The next one we have is the Norway Spruce. We have them throughout the village. They're very tall trees. We see them as very tall trees because they've been here a while. But they're, so some of the areas around the village where we're trying to hide neighbors or something like this, Norway spruces are perfect, okay? The next one is a sugar maple. We're just giving you examples of common trees here, okay? And the next page I have is just, I had him make a copy of the, this happens to be Wikipedia for a Plantus occidentalis, which happens to be the American sycamore, I think. Is that the sycamore? I think it is.
Yes.
It is.
And then, so this is the type of document we go to determine what the words ought to be for education and things like this. We look at other things like Norton Arboretum has information like this, and we've looked at, and others too, that so this is what we have end up in ours is a representation. We think what would be of interest to the people who live in it. The next page we developed, because we changed our name, we changed a couple of logos, and this green one, I guess an orange one, its real name, if you see it here, I don't know if it's there, is something like green in it, but it's a circle, and it has a tree. This was originally, the concept of this was developed by Jody Speroni.
Oh.
And she worked with Nancy Masenko, and between the two of them, they came up with the original logo. But we cleaned it up a little bit, kept the idea and the thrust that she had, and the one below it is where you see white, it's blank, and there's nothing there. It picks up the color from underneath it. Like the color, you saw a little bit of gray with the logo, the label. It picks that up through it. So so that is an idea there. And the last page, almost last page, is where the arboretum is. This is a work in process. It's not going to look exactly like this, but we're going to have this in the village, online in the village, so people can search And they can, you know, you wanna know where every willow tree is, you can get it on, you can get it in the village. So it's good for education, and one of the things important here is, what do you do with it, you know? We gotta do something with it, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second. But this is a work in process.
Joe, where would somebody get the QR code for the map itself? Would that be in front of the village office or
They
something
can
like
come
that?
and get online at the village office and get it. And I'm just reaching to the next comment I was gonna make. You should see some little areas blocked off. And those are we will have booklets. And we can get more trees in the booklets because they're blown up. That area's blown up. So people can go walk around and see those, and they don't have to go to the village website all the time. They can be able to walk around and look at the trees and know what they are, and so that will happen. That's a work in process right now. And then, it seems like I kind of skipped over something here. Oh, yeah, up above. Why are we interested in this? And, you know, there's just some ideas, trees and shrubs, education. It's little things like QR code education. It's little things like, you know, what tree is this good for? And what do you like about that one? And what do you not like about that one? Does it give you a lot of shade? Does it not give you a lot of shade? You know, how does it really get pull the water out of the ground and into the tree and help with the water management in the village itself? It's those type of things that we want to set up a series of educational forums so people can learn about the environment we live in. So that's what we're about. And we've got a couple of good points here, so and we'll take those to heart. Any questions?
And you want us to leave these here for the next group, right?
Yeah. Well, the guy that made them didn't make enough, you know, so.
That's fine.
That's fine,
And-
we'll leave them.
So I don't need them all, but I just need some.
Just notice on the Wikipedia example, the Wikipedia page, Plantis occidentalis, that's actually italicized.
As opposed to cursive.
Yeah.
And
You
so
can see what the
Yeah,
intent
most of
was.
them are, actually.
Subsequent example pages.
All of them are except for the one you have on your
Yeah.
sign. All the rest of them
Excuse me.
are not cursive, they're just italicized.
That's great.
Well, we'll take that under, you know, advisement and stuff.
Lots of hard work there. Looks
Yeah.
good.
Great
It's
firm.
a- It's a moving
That'd be a
process.
great idea.
So you're going before council with that later tonight, right?
But yeah,
The
we're
program.
looking at the wording and that kind of stuff
Okay.
there too. So the same presentation's gonna be given to us.
Okay. And for tonight,
And they have
though,
an ordinance on the books to approve the sign, what the label will be. Okay.
tonight though, from this board, you're looking for appropriateness approval,
Yeah,
correct?
I guess.
Correct.
Okay. All right,
For
well,
a
let's,
motion?
ready for a motion, I think we are.
I move that the labels as submitted are appropriate to be posted around the trees in Glendale.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Anyone in the audience? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, I kept my mouth shut because I don't have to vote.
Not on appropriateness.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll keep these.
Here, look, you have just a couple of them.
Here.
Yeah,
So,
they're just gonna come sit down in the
seems
same
kind of
spots.
strange to if they hand something out and then take it away.
No. Save a tree.
But you're nice. They're nice people.
If anyone's longing for it, I can email it to you.
All right, well, that concludes our action
I'll feel
items
better
tonight.
if somebody keeps it. Thank you.
There we go. Any other business to come before the commission? Items of discussion? Motions?
I move we adjourn.
Second, anyone?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.